Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the Cali Culture Podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy. I go by Mr. International Man of Mystery. We have a great show for you today. Now, all you existing followers, I appreciate your support. Thanks for being with me and on this journey, exploring Cali culture, learning Cali culture, and promoting good, positive tourism. For all the new followers, welcome. We appreciate you dialing in, joining in, and we definitely want you to learn as much as you possibly can about Cali culture. If you haven't been to Cali, Colombia, you're definitely going to want to go. So stay tuned. Now, I have a great show for you today. I have a special guest. She is originally from Cali, Colombia. She is an author as well. She wrote the book Miseducation of Acculturation. I'll just put it on the screen. Hopefully you can see it there. If you can't, I'll have some more detail. There, that's a better picture. There we go. Miseducation of Acculturation by MJ Del Sol. And this book, I'm not going to give too much of away because I want you to go out and buy the book. But this book is based on a young girl uprooting from Cali, Colombia, due to some circumstances. Her mom uprooted her from Cali, Colombia to America, to starting out in Miami, and then ultimately they moved to New York. Now, just imagine being that young, being 8 years old, and moving from your home country to another country, different culture, different language, totally different people. You can imagine that that was a difficult process, but it was an interesting process as well. Well, MJ Del Sol is going to tell us all about that. Welcome, 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 MJ Del Sol, to the show.
Thank you so much, Jeremy, Mr. International Man of Mystery. We'll have to get to the bottom of that. I don't know if anyone
Sure.
has asked you that. So, gracias, gracias, gracias. And thank you so much, everyone. Like, super happy to be here. Super honored, like, that somebody even read my book. Like, Jeremy and I connected through social media, through Instagram. And he, I told him about my book because obviously, if you're promoting Cali culture, you gotta like to tap into my book for sure,
Definitely.
because of who I am, because of what I do, because of what I bring to the table, because of like our culture, right? The Cali culture.
Mhm.
And he read it. He read the whole
Yeah.
book and gave me a whole breakdown. I could not believe it. I'm like, wow, this guy is so thorough and legit. And so I was just super excited when he was like, I want to interview you. And so here we are in the actual interview. My name is MJ Del Sol. That's my pen name. But my birth given name is Mercedes, which I love, but I didn't love growing up because that's part of the acculturation process, right? So I was born and raised in Colombia till I was 8, and then we migrated actually to New York. And it was like cold water just splashed on my face, and I had no idea what happened. Like I didn't know that we were truly like staying there. I thought we were spending un verano en Nueva York, which I was all into because, as if you've ever spent un verano in Nueva York in the 80s, it was a vibe. It's still a vibe, but it was a deeper vibe back then, right? And Gran Combo was pumping, like the streets were bustling, like it was a whole different experience back then in the 80s, right? To date myself here. So, I didn't know I was staying. And that's where my acculturation process happened. Like initially when you go on vacation, you're like, oh, this is great, but when like now you're committed to staying someplace that's extremely different from you, it's a shockwave. It's like a shockwave through the system that you don't know, especially as you're little, right? You are like, I think one of the hardest things that people don't understand about the acculturation process, the immigration process, is that, when we came to the States, I lost all my cousins and my aunties and the
Mhm.
comfort of having that extended family.
Yeah.
That was to me like one of the slow deaths that happen. Like it's kind of like immigration and the acculturation happens. It's like
Mhm.
death by a thousand cuts. And I don't mean that in a tragic way, but you do have to like so many things die inside of you of the person
Mhm.
that you were once at one point, that it's so hard to regain, because you like, okay, I have to make like have to something when you die, something, comes to life, right? Something else comes to life. And like, who is this new person that's coming to life, right? Now you're like, now you're like speaking the language, if the process of learning to speak the language.
Right.
Now you're doing things. Now you're eating hot dogs as opposed to arepas, now you're like doing these things, but like, are you doing them because you're just trying to fit into the paradigm of that you're in? Or are
Mhm.
you doing them because you really, I was doing it and I have done it. And this is the reason I live in South Florida. I live in, the outskirts of Miami. I live like in Hamundi, if you could.
Okay. Yeah.
So
Or you.
yeah, so I live like in the outskirts of, Miami proper. But I work in Miami, so I'm in and out of Miami all day, all the time.
Mhm.
Nonetheless, like what happens is, as you're acculturating, you become okay with who you're becoming because you are
Mhm.
becoming something new, right? One of the things that I say in my book is like, I didn't know that I was this pale under my, under my son's skin, because when in Cali, like we were always like playing outside, or we
Mhm.
were, and wherever, La Piscina, we were always like, in a Club Arroyo Hondo, hanging out, whatever. So not having, having access to the sun for a long period of time was a new concept, one that I was not comfortable with.
Right.
Again, which is why I live where I live now, because I need the sun, and that's very, that tropical environment. What is
Yeah.
Cali? And to go to New York, New York comes with new things. I
Mhm.
embraced the new things. I became somebody else. I definitely started even to lose my language, um,
Mhm.
of my native language, which is now why I said I live where I live, and I practice, where I work. I speak Spanish throughout the day, like,
Mhm.
because that's important to me to continue that.
Right.
People really lose all of it, and like they're like they want to, for a long time, and I talk about this in my book. I said that my last name is Jimenez, and
Mhm.
I used to say Jimenez, right? Like, oh, Jimenez, and then my teacher was like, "What? Like
Yeah.
that's not like how you say your name." And I was
Right.
like, "Well, how do you say my name?" And he was like, "Well, how do you say it in your native language?" He was like, "How you say it when back home?" And I was like, "Jimenez." He's like, "That's how you say your name." And I swear, I still get chills. Like, I don't even think he knew
Yeah.
how impactful that was. And I swear, I think we were like, um, I think that we just try to become so integrated in a culture that's not our own that we
Right.
lose who we are, the essence of who we are, And so that's
Mhm.
why the book was so important for me to write. It was brewing inside of me, but I was never wanting to write a book. I
Mhm.
thought maybe I'd write a screenplay or a movie before I'd even write a book. But the book was so essential to who I am, because I had already done snippets of that throughout my life, right? Like just
Mhm.
always bringing up my culture, always bringing up who I am, ethnic wise, or, nationality wise, or all of that. So my roots is really because my roots were so delicious for me. Like my roots
Mhm.
were so like, I really have had a beautiful childhood in essence, there
Mhm.
was a lot of innocence and a lot of just a lot of just pureness in many ways. And then when I came to the States, it was like grow up and grow up fast, like what I call like big girl panties. Like I had to get I had to like really earn that. And I did it because that's what you do. You acclimate, right? Like that's a part of
Right.
acculturation, assimilation, like acclimating to your circumstances. So I had to acclimate. I couldn't be like, well, that's not what I did back home. I had to like
Mhm.
pace real quick, where I lived a very sheltered life. And, I do believe in God. So I know God did it in a way that like worked out for my benefit. I'm very proud of
Right.
where I am now and looking back. But
Yeah.
the process of that was really painful.
Yeah. I can imagine.
Ways. Yeah.
Yeah. Even the going from Cali. So Cali is, I would say, tropical is definitely warm year round in Cali, Colombia, and you went from that temperature climate to New York. Just tell us about that. Just the temperature climate aspect of the acculturation process. How difficult was that?
Very difficult. We landed in the summertime, and literally it was bustling and vibrant and awesome. I was like, this
Mhm.
is so cool. And you heard the ice cream truck, and you got that, the hot dogs. Now you're eating things
Yeah.
like, in Colombia, I never ate junk food. I always
Mhm.
ate home cooked meals. And then we had someone who made them at my house, who come in and clean and cook
Mhm.
delicious. And so now it's like we're making our own meals. Now we're like making sandwiches with like Wonder Bread and all that stuff.
Mhm.
So when you first do it, you're like, this is fun, you know, it's kind of like you're
Mhm.
on vacation. But when the vacation ends and now the seasons change and now you're like layered up, and like Christmas, which very festive back home, is
Mhm.
now dark at 3 and cold as hell. And we're
Mhm.
talking about Santa. I was like, this doesn't add up for me. You know what I mean? Because for me, like the 24th was always like, you know, well, starting with like, you know, the initiation of Christmas with the candles and,
Right.
you know, and like you couldn't do that outside in New York because you're the only one doing it and it's cold and the whole
Yeah.
nine. And it's always like, you know, you're worried about fires and
Mhm.
all those things. And then leading up to like the 24th, and it's very anticlimactic. We didn't have our family around. So it was us
Mhm.
and whoever other immigrants were around us that we had to sort of befriended and became, you know, kind of like our family, so to speak,
Right.
during that time. It was just mayhem. It was just I was a very depressed child on the inside because I had lost, you know, my whole family structure had, you know, dissipated all the way from my brother stayed, some of my brothers stayed behind. My father
Right.
was no longer in my life.
Mhm.
My aunties, whatever. So thank God that like God designed me in a way that like I'm a survivor, I'm a trooper, you know what I mean? Like
Right.
I'm in Aries, I'm like, you
Yeah.
cannot stop me. Like you can't, like even if you try up to this day,
Mhm.
you know? So thank God I was made up that way, but
Yeah.
it's hard.
Mhm.
It's hard. So I see it, and I'm very, you know, when I used to go to delis in New York, I always spoke Spanish to the people in the back. I always, you know, just to be like, I got, you know, we're here, we're one. Like I
Right.
want to be like that with my Latino people. Like we're one. You know, obviously with my Colombian people, and more obviously with my Caleños. Like Caleños and
Yeah.
I are like you got a soldier here for life because
Yeah.
we're, you know, we come from the same sort of chaos and sort of
Right.
melee, if you
Yeah.
will. So so for me that's just important. And some people are like, well, you don't look like you're from Cali, or you don't look like you're from Colombia. And I'm like, well, you don't know Colombians because we look like all, we have all sorts of shapes, all sorts of shades, all sorts
Yeah.
of everything.
Especially
And
in Cali. Especially in Cali. I was shocked when I first went to Cali of how much diversity is in that city. I mean, honestly, to me, it reminds me of America from that aspect that it is really a melting pot. You might see somebody that looks as dark as myself. You
Mhm,
might see somebody obviously with your skin complexion, and then surprisingly, I've seen people as pale with blue eyes in Cali that
mhm,
are Caleños or
yeah,
Caleños.
yeah.
So there's a lot of diversity in Cali. I haven't seen that in other cities in Colombia. I think that's a very interesting part of Cali.
To you know, highlight what you're doing, and I love what you're doing about Cali culture per se. It's like if we're looking at Bogota, Medellin, and Cali,
Hmm.
Cali to me is the most open arms of
Hmm. I agree.
not just open arms, but um, like that sort of diversity, right? Like there is a lot of racism that happens still all throughout
Hmm.
Latin America, in the United States, everywhere, right?
Right. Yeah.
Um, and so, but Cali, because it's so Afro influenced,
Hmm.
it's got not only it has that diversity, but it has that flavor, you know,
Yeah.
that swing. And so
Yeah.
that I love. I absolutely love. That is
Yeah.
my, like, what is my glue with Cali? And it's that.
Hmm.
It's the
Yeah.
it's
I
the
agree.
essence, la esencia del guaguancó, as we would
Yeah. Yeah.
la esencia of
I'm
that.
learning some Spanish words today. I appreciate it, MJ.
Yes. And you'll see that in my book. You know,
Right.
I throw Spanish verses and Spanish
Yes.
words in there because it's important, and because
Mhm.
that's some things you can't say it any other way, but in the way that like I can, you know what I mean, in
Yeah.
that language, in that way.
Hmm.
But that like you know, what is the glue of Cali, right? Like what is the vibe, what is the purpose? Like one of my friends said, so all you guys do is party, like is that what Cali's about? Like that's all you do, like it's just salsa all day? I'm like, yeah. And like, yeah, like that's what we do. We just
Yeah.
bring energy and flair and flavor to any situation.
Yeah. I agree.
It's like,
Definitely agree. Yeah.
it's like I can be in the supermarket and like they're playing like El Grupo Nietzsche, and I'm like, what? That's my song. Now it's not just like I'm getting cheese and I'm getting bread, and now
Right.
it's I'm in my whole. It's like this energy, and I and
Yeah.
like what I never lost and what's always my essence is that, and that's always the essence of any,
Right.
not any caleño, but most caleños, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
they vibrate in that energy of seeing like the wonder and
Yeah.
like the joy. Like nobody can steal our joy. Like for a caleño, nobody can steal our joy unless
So,
it's a different.
so on that point, what do you want people? What do you want people to know about Cali, Colombia? I mean, obviously, there's a lot of news. There's a lot of headlines about Cali. There's been a lot of headlines over the past decades, but obviously, what happened with the narcos, um, and so there is some negative attention. Let's be honest, right? There is some negative attentions
For sure.
surrounding Cali, but beyond that, with people like yourself, obviously that you're originally from Cali, and people like myself that's an expat that loves Cali. What do you want people to know about Cali, Colombia?
I think I only want them to know so much because I don't want it to be a touristy town. I just can't.
Yeah,
I can't.
right.
The
Mm-hmm.
form of me and like, people like go to Bogota. It's an amazing city. It's huge.
Mm-hmm.
It's, vibrant. Cali is like this next to Bogota. This is Bogota. Cali is like this, right?
Right.
It's like somewhere in the middle, but like you've said it, it's just so touristy. They've created a tourist haven, which is
Mm-hmm.
gorgeous, amazing. Like, I love Medellin.
Mm-hmm.
But Cali is just like, it's just like that
Yeah.
like that little cozy spot, like that
Right.
blanket you love. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that space that it's you don't go in there trying to change it. Be
Right.
one with it, right? Like so,
Yeah.
Cali. As soon as you come in, and I talk about it in my book, you have a stretch of land before you actually hit the city,
Mm-hmm.
and like where you can smell the sugar cane, right? So like
Mm-hmm.
listen to El Grupo, like listen to the music of that comes from Cali so you can understand it before you even go, right? Like if you can
Right.
speak the language and stuff. Like el Orquesta Guayacán says, si huele a caña,
Yeah.
tabacurea, usted está en Cali, I
Yeah.
mire, because
Yeah.
like you can smell that as you're coming in, si las mujeres
Mm-hmm.
son lindas y hermosas, like if it's like listen to the music because the music is going to explain, it's
Mm-hmm.
a great way to learn the language and it's a great way
Right.
to learn the culture. So the music will explain, what we're working with as far as getting to Cali and being in Cali, because he talks
Mm-hmm.
about like in that song, and many songs, Cali Pachanguero,
Right.
all these songs, right?
Mm-hmm.
It talks about like the actual lay of the land, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
it talks about certain neighborhoods, certain streets, certain places. So what people need to know about Cali is like, don't go in there like having expectations like you want it to be
Right.
American or you want it to suit you. It's not going
Yeah.
to suit you. It's going to suit what it suits, which is the people of the land. And it doesn't even
Absolutely.
always suit the people of the land because we said, it's not glamorous. It's not
Right.
glamorous. It has some glamour to it. You definitely
Mm-hmm.
can find that, but it's a little chaotic. It's a little all over the place. It's a little
Mm-hmm.
it's not it's cutting edge. I would say to some degree. It's a little volatile at times, but so is New
Mm-hmm.
York. New York is.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So are like certain,
Chicago in Philadelphia.
and so Miami. You know,
Right.
at
Yeah.
times, right? Like so. Definitely you got to be careful if you can go with someone that's local. I
Mm-hmm.
know that you are creating a safe space for a lot of
Yeah.
people to travel, which I absolutely love. I
Mm-hmm.
got your tour guide, your guide,
Yes.
so you can get that online. It's
Yeah.
awesome. And I know that you're going to be upgrading it and updating it.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the fact that you are creating a safe space. Like I would love, like, so some people, some salsa lovers, I'm sorry, I'm long-winded.
No, no, go ahead.
I'm
By
so
all means.
super long-winded. So some salsa lovers, I'm like, you cannot be a salsa lover
Mhm.
and not go to Cali. Like you
Yeah, I
can't.
agree.
You can't be like a
A
salsa DJ.
must. You have to go to Cali if
Well,
you love
you
salsa.
gotta go to Feria de Cali, right? So
Yeah.
like for me, when you were telling me about like the like what was the dichotomy between being in New York and being in Cali, like
Mm-hmm.
that whole Christmas situation was so depressing for me.
Yeah.
Not only did we not have as immigrants really have the money to like really celebrate and all that stuff, we didn't have our
Mm-hmm.
family around. It was
Mm.
cold as opposed to warm. And Cali really like lights up 5 days out of the year,
Yeah.
all year, but 5 days out of the year during the Christmas time between Christmas and New Year's.
Mm-hmm.
There's La Feria de Cali in all the salsa schools. And it's for everybody. It's not just nightclubs and stuff like that. It's for everybody. Where they come out and they perform, and
Mm-hmm.
the bands perform, and like salsa singers come, and all sorts of things are happening. And it's just such a vibrant time to be there. And I'm like, people have to go during that time. They have to
Yeah.
experience this. It's so beautiful. It's so nice. And it's
Right.
it's festive, you know. Yes, there's drinking. Yes, there's
Yeah.
partying. But
Yeah.
so what?
It's all a part of it, though, right? That makes a good
Right.
time.
Right. People talk about El Carnaval del Rio all the time, and they don't give it like a bad face. So don't give Cali Feria a bad face.
Yeah, and I'd say I haven't been to that event. I missed it this past year because I was in America, but I've seen clips and videos online. I definitely have to experience that, MJ. I can only imagine being there because just looking at the videos and seeing all of the dancers and the performers that are dancing live in the street and the parades. I mean, it looks like to me it looks like carnival within 2 or 3 days. But it's more festive, centered around the holidays, and I definitely have to experience that myself. I'm sure it's amazing live in person.
It's 5 days, and it's
5 days. Wow.
5 days. Yeah, it's the 25th to the 30th.
Mm.
It's the 25th of December to the 30th of December. So you can spend it because we celebrate the 24th, not really the 25th. So you can spend Christmas with your family, and then the 25th, you're off to like partying off until the 30th, and then you can spend 31st with your family. You know, that's kind of the concept. And it's perfect because they, you know, not only like do you see these young kids, like this is what they're doing, this is what they're dancing, you know, just like performing, and there is classic car this feeling what is it, like a carousel though, or see, there's certain words I get and vice versa. There's certain words in English and I'm like, oh, what do you say that in Spanish? But there's all sorts of things going on for kids, for adults. So yeah, it's a real good time for people to go and get to like experience the lay of the land. And another thing about Cali, and sorry, like I just want to say this, like that we were talking about, like what is also the glue, right? Like what is besides the energy of the people, like la calidad, like the warmth of the people, and the kindness of the people. Is I love the lay of the land that you have, like a lot of natural resources, like beautiful rivers, like it's very clean, but it's very yes.
Yeah.
But when we were talking about this, like you go to El Kilómetro, right? You go up the mountainside and in 10 minutes, you're in cooler weather.
Right. Yeah.
And it might be a fog, you know, you can go drink hot chocolate. Like it's just such that part I love so much because you can live in hot weather, but then go experience it in a day's time, cold weather.
Yeah. And it's only what, 20 minutes outside of Cali?
Yeah,
you could be in a climate is at least 10 degrees cooler. So
20, like up to 20 sometimes. Yeah. It can get really cold. And you're like, then you go down there and you're like, it's hot. And and there's traffic, and it's so nice. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, I think I just kind of want to add, I really am trying to keep that authenticity of the culture in Cali, because I have seen firsthand how an area, a country, a city can just completely turn, for lack of a better term, just turn gringo overnight. And I spent a lot of time in Dominican Republic, in Cabarete, Dominican Republic. And over the years, I've seen that it had that sort of authenticity that Cali has, and it changed overnight to, I feel like I'm in America. I feel like I'm in Orlando or Miami. And
I can't do it. I can't.
Yeah.
I acculturated once, which is when I came here.
Yeah.
And we're always acculturating as people. You know what I mean? Right. Whether we go into a new workspace, whether we go into somewhere else, we have to kind of go by what the lay of the land and the rules of the establishment is at that moment, right? So, but when you're like to live, like I can't see myself retiring in another place where I have to acculturate yet again to another. I just can't do it. So either I stay where I am or I go back to Colombia. I can't do it. can't.
No, I get
It's
it.
such a process. I don't think people
Yeah.
realize, in light of what's going on with immigration now,
Mm-hmm.
like I don't think people realize how hard it is
Mm-hmm.
to try to go to a new place to try to make it, because for survival, for your family,
Mm-hmm.
and that you're just doing the right thing and that you're
Right.
criminalized for it. That is
Mm-hmm.
to me like heartbreaking in such a way that I can't even explain.